friends, I hope you are all well. Welcome back to my channel. I am rushing to get this video done before the sun goes in because we currently have about 1 hour of daylight at the moment in the UK. But I wanted to make a video for newly diagnosed diabetics, for all of you guys who may have been diagnosed recently or maybe not so recently, and just wanted to hear hopefully what will be a bit of encouragement of some things that I wish I knew when I was diagnosed with diabetes, things that I've learned along the way, and stuff that I think would have been really useful for 8-year-old me to have heard 17 years ago when I got given a diabetes diagnosis and was just like told pretty much go and get on with it. So the first thing, I'm going to jump in with something pretty harsh because let's be real, diabetes is pretty harsh, but it's kind of to set your expectations, and that is that I want to let you know now that it's unfortunately not as simple as just counting carbs and applying an insulin ratio and taking the right amount of insulin. Diabetes is a lot more complicated than that, and it's likely that your hospital or your diabetes clinic or whoever it is that is kind of caring for you at the beginning after diagnosis, they're not going to tell you everything straight away because it's just far too much information, and as long as they can get you healthy and stable as soon as possible, they're then going to drip feed you all of the other tools that you're going to need to manage your blood sugars to the best of your ability. But at the beginning, to me, it did seem, oh my god, my eye is so itchy, it did seem that it was just going to be as simple as counting carbs and taking insulin, and there's actually 42 different factors that can affect your blood sugar. That sounds super daunting, having to take 42 factors into account every time you do your injection, but there is a lot. It's not just about the carbs, it's about what else is in your food, what proteins in your food, what fats are in your food. Have you done any exercise? Are you in a period of stress? Are you coming up to your period or just coming off of your period? Have you got hormones going on? Is it cold? Is it hot? So many things affect diabetes, so I just want you to be prepared going into this phase of your life, that there is a lot to learn and it's not quite as simple as it may seem straight away. I would really recommend the book Think Like a Pancreas. It's amazing, it really changed my life. I unfortunately only read it a couple of years ago, so like 15 years into my diagnosis, and there's a lot of information that would have been so useful for me to have had for the previous 15 years, so I'd really recommend that book if you can pick it up. And having said that, because there are 42 different factors that can affect your blood sugar, it's so important to do trial and error and to not let certain things scare you or put you off, and to not just eliminate things from your life like nice food and like exercise or stress. Obviously we don't really want to be stressed, but it's going to happen, and not to eliminate these situations from your life, and instead incorporate them when you feel ready, and just be prepared for some trial and error so you can learn how to adjust your insulin to all of these different scenarios, whether it's eating a pizza, whether it's playing football, whether it's going to the gym, whether it's sleeping in, whether it's your period. It's a lot to adapt, and so you're going to need to do trial and error, and you probably won't do it right the first time. The first thing you try to see if it works probably won't work, and you're probably going to have to adjust something in your plan for the next time you come across that scenario. But just know that that's okay. Know that it's okay for it to go wrong. Know that it's okay for you to try something new and for it to not go to plan. As long as you sit back and then analyse that situation, learn from it, apply it to the next time, you're doing the best you can. And with that being said, do not expect to be perfect. You are not a pancreas on legs. You are not going to be able to do all of those functions and take into account all of those micro situations that your pancreas was previously able to do for you. You are a person, you have a job, family, friends, a life, hobbies. You can't dedicate every second of your life to your diabetes. You want to dedicate as much time and energy as you can to it. You want to learn as much as possible. You want to do the best you can to manage your blood sugars, but even if you do the best you can, it's not going to be perfect. You can do the exact same thing 2 days in a row, but maybe the second day you suddenly get your period and your hormones affect your blood sugars, and you will have 2 completely different results. So even if you try really hard, why am I so itchy in my eyeballs? Even if you try really hard and do everything you can, you won't be perfect, and that's fine. You just need to learn to accept that. start. And another thing I would say that kind of goes along with this, along with all of the stuff that you have to manage, all of the things you have to take into account, is that you also need to be prepared to adapt. What works for you this year might not work for you next year, because you might grow, you might build muscle, you might lose muscle, or hormone patterns might change, the seasons might change things, and there are long-term changes that can happen that can affect your diabetes management. There's things day to day, like what exercise you've done that day. Is it a particularly cold day that day? Is it a stressful day that day? But also things that happen long term can change the picture of your blood sugars over kind of a longer period of time, and so it's important to be able to adapt to that. I was rubbish for years. I left it all to my diabetes team. I was like, okay, I'm seeing you once every 3 months, I'm writing down all my blood sugars, I'm giving it to you, and you're going to tell me what to do. But that means that you're only going to get help once every 3 months or once every time you see your diabetes team. And what happens in the interim when you want to be able to have the tools to sort it out yourself? I couldn't do that for a really long time. I had to take it upon myself to then go and do lots of research, to listen to different people, to read different books, to find out what works for me, and to do that trial and error. It's important to be independent, to take that responsibility onto yourself, to put that work in, to be able to adjust your basal, and do all these different things without having to have your diabetes team there to handhold you. Yes, run things past them. Yes, use them as a tool, but it's your diabetes and you need to take charge. On that note, like I said, I've listened to a lot of different people, and a great place to be as a type 1 diabetic is the online community, the online diabetes community. Not only is it great for emotional support, you can see that other people are going through the same struggles as you. I'm devastated that it took me so long to start my diabetes Instagram account and to start this YouTube channel, because they've been such amazing tools for me to learn different things and for me to feel part of a community, part of a group of people who all have similar struggles, but also to learn from different people. I've learned so much from the online diabetes community, different things that people do to manage different situations with your diabetes, whether it's different types of food, different types of exercise, different types of activity, all of these different things. People have hundreds of different ways of managing things, and you can learn so much from your peers rather than just from your diabetes team. However, having said that, don't take something someone online says for gospel. Don't take whatever they've said and implant it directly into your diabetes and think that it's going to cure everything and solve all your problems, because it won't. We all have different diabetes and we all have different ways of managing, and what works for one person won't work for you. Maybe that person is a lot more active than you are, maybe that person is a lot less active than you are, maybe that person has a much more stressful life, maybe that person just has different genetics. Like, what works for someone isn't going to work for you, and so it's important to hear these things, learn these opinions, learn these different techniques that everyone's using, and then take that and apply it to you where it is necessary and where it kind of fits with your life and with your diabetes and your body, and your genetics and all of that stuff. So listen to people, but just know that what works for someone else won't always work for you. I would just like to caveat though with saying that one thing that is almost definitely going to work for you is exercise. Exercise is such an important tool when it comes to diabetes management. However you like to exercise, whether it's weights, running, swimming, dancing, tennis, football, however you like to exercise, some form of exercise is so important for diabetes management. It really helps your insulin sensitivity, and that just leads to heaps of benefits. I have a whole playlist with different videos based on diabetes and exercise, how I manage my blood sugars around different types of exercise, things I wish I knew when I started exercising with diabetes. So go and check that out if exercise and diabetes is something that's new to you, but please incorporate it. Don't be afraid. Yes, it takes a little while to learn how to adjust and adapt your insulin to different forms of exercise, but once you've done your trial and error, once you've worked it out, then you can just go on autopilot and just do the same thing every time, and it's so easy. It's just so worth it. Another thing that's an amazing tool for us diabetics is tech, diabetes tech. Please don't be scared of tech. I have a Freestyle Libre, which is a flash glucose monitor and an insulin pump, and I wish I had got these sooner. They make the world of difference to your diabetes management. I got my Freestyle Libre about 14 years after I was diagnosed, and I got my pump 16 years after I was diagnosed. It took me a really long time because when I was younger and when I was early in on my diagnosis, I didn't want something to be on my body to show people that I had diabetes or to show people that I had something medical on me. I really didn't want that. I was really scared of it. But firstly, people never even really notice. I've had maybe 2 comments of people asking me what my Libre is since I've had it. Bearing in mind I always have my arms out in the gym. People don't notice, people don't care. Secondly, you shouldn't care if people care or not. It's your diabetes, it's your body. But also it can take such a ginormous burden off of you when it comes to your diabetes management. And if you're diagnosed young and you think you might want that tech, go for it, because as soon as you become an adult, it gets a lot harder to apply for diabetes tech, especially an insulin pump. It took me about 6 months to be able to get my Libre from when I first asked, and it took me years to get an insulin pump after I first asked for one, because there are lots of criteria you have to hit in order to be prescribed on the NHS. It is very difficult, but there's a lot fewer criteria that you need to hit as a child, because obviously it's quite a lot more difficult to manage your diabetes as a child, and so they provide a lot of help to you and a lot of tech, and it's really easy to access. And once you have it as a kid, you will carry on being prescribed it as an adult. So if you think it's something you want, go for it and keep asking. Even if you get told no now, ask again in a few months, ask again in a year, because guidelines change and also your diabetes might change and you might hit a criteria that you didn't hit before. So please don't be afraid of tech, please use it to your advantage. And on that note of me not wanting people to see my devices, I want to tell you that it's nothing to be ashamed of. Diabetes is nothing to be ashamed of. Whatever type of diabetes you have, it's nothing to be ashamed of. And in a few communities there is quite a lot of stigma about diabetes, especially type 2 diabetes. And just know that it's okay. You have diabetes, it's a medical condition, that's that. Please don't be ashamed of it, it's just part of who you are. Then I wanted to finish this video on a positive note, because I realised a lot of what I've said might be quite overwhelming, especially the whole 42 factors affecting your blood sugar, and all the different things you have to consider all of the time. I want to tell you that it gets easier. Like I said, once you've done this trial and error, once you've experimented, once you've got used to it, once you've found your routines, it gets easier. You can go on autopilot a lot more once you have all of this worked out. It's going to be really hard at the beginning. You're going to have to put in a lot of work to learn and to bring your diabetes under control, but once you're there, it gets so much easier and you can forget about it a lot of the time. Well, not forget, but you forget that it's an addition to your life compared to everyone else who seems to just be able to be pretty carefree, who can eat in a restaurant and not have to inject, who can drink a coffee and not have to worry about the caffeine, people who can do all this stuff, who don't have diabetes, who are just so lucky. You start to feel less different eventually. You start to feel like it's less of a burden. So keep up the positivity. Of course it's okay to cry, of course it's okay to feel all the feelings. It's overwhelming, but it does get, the day-to-day does get a lot easier. Yeah, those are the things I wish I knew when I was diagnosed with diabetes. It feels like a lifetime ago. We've come on leaps and bounds in terms of diabetes management and diabetes tech since then. But yeah, there's just a few things that I wish I would have heard, and I wish I would have been aware of, to kind of prepare me for life as a type 1 diabetic. If you have any other advice for a newly diagnosed type 1 diabetic, please leave it in the comments down below. I really like it when we can all share advice, opinions, tips down in the comments, and it's just like a lovely space to kind of get to know each other, and also to pass on our wisdom. So yeah, that's it for this one, and I will see you soon. Bye!